you're up to in this wonderful, wild world. I hope everyone's doing well. And welcome to another show where we talk about the soft and system sides to sales. And today, myself and Jason are going to be discussing the non verbal voice and cues when it comes to sales. So, welcome, Jason. As always, it's always a pleasure to have these conversations with you and share this wonderful information with our audiences. So, today we're talking about non-verbal voices, right? And as you know, Jason, like there's nothing more like frustrating in a sales meeting because at the end of the day, you don't want to be wasting people's time, right?
Absolutely.
And you want to make sure if you really believe this has got a good chance of moving forward with the customer, you can solve their problems, service their needs. But it's very hard. You don't know. Sometimes it's very hard to understand should you keep pushing or not. And we have to look at all the different pieces of information that are being shared with us, both verbal
Yeah.
and non-verbal, and even paraverbal sometimes.
Mhm.
So when I ask you, if I was to ask you a question, Jason, what is one of the most frustrating things that you find about the sales meeting engagement and whether to pursue forward or not?
Well, I think the body language probably gives it away a little bit. And it's when we're speaking with our clients and customers directly or in this virtual world, it's really necessary to understand the nonverbal communication. Because as we know, as human beings, 90 odd percent is non-verbal. Depends on the sources that you read. So 55%, which is the body language, and then around about 30% is the tone, the tonality that we speak in. Then the rest of it is how we speak, which is around about 7%, but it does vary from source to source. I'm reading in with Joe Navarro quite recently, and he says the original statistics were completely wrong, and the newer statistics that he was saying is it does vary from person to person how the non-verbal cues are actually done, but that's a guesstimate out there. So
Hmm.
it's really good to understand exactly what we're saying. And today I'm pretty much overdoing what I'm saying in my body language, because it's so imperative. Like for if I'm speaking to a client and all of a sudden they go like that, and all of a sudden they lean back and they look in another direction and their body language is going in another direction, is either they're disinterested, they're looking away, they're going back in their seat, they're going leaning backwards, but they could be looking for an exit, and their body language is aiming for the door or it's aiming for somewhere else, and it probably might just be disinterested in you. It's sometimes if you go like that, it could be a challenging conversation. They could be holding their like that, which is protecting them, their fight, flight, or freeze mechanism that's actually going inwards. But when you hold yourself downwards and you feel a little bit more comfortable, they're probably in a more of a relaxed, and they might be more open to your suggestions. When the people's body language is a little bit more open, they are a little bit more open to what you're saying to them. But there's so much we can learn about the other person when we pay attention to what's actually being said and suggested by the nonverbal cues, and even with the face. So when we have a look at that, and I'm sure we've all experienced that,
Hmm.
like the frowns and the eyebrows going up, and they're looking around the room, and the eyes are going either left, right. But if I posed you a question, your eyeballs might go all over the place because you might be resourcing information internally.
Hmm.
Or if I'm asking you a question, Shay, you could just be making something up, and you could just be not going, yeah, exactly. You could just go, hang on a minute. I think
Mm.
Shay might be going from a resource that he doesn't really know too much about, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, Jason, and I love the way you animated there because it is so important to pick up these non-verbal cues. The other thing I'd like to really understand, Jason, is it one cue in isolation, or can I see a pattern emerging? And this is where qualifying questions can be
Yeah,
really powerful. That when you ask a question, you see the reaction, and then from there, if you see something that okay, maybe they're not so interested, you can actually that can trigger you to ask another question to see patterns because people are usually very obvious with their body language,
yeah,
Jason.
yeah,
And it's like sometimes, like even I've seen people, Jason, where done it, they've done exactly what you just said. They turn away and they go like that, and I would have thought they would have done that because they're not interested. But then I realized, okay, they're just actually going into a thought process. They're just
yeah,
going, okay, how do I think about this? So I had to ask more qualifying questions to see was it what I felt. And that can be quite distracting, Jason, because it can take you off your stride when you see something and it throws you off. And then here's the other thing, Jason, to add complication to that, then is your body language and non-verbal communications encouraging them to act a certain way too. So you have to be
yeah.
really mindful of you leading them in a situation. And if you're going to lead with body language, you have to ensure it's exactly how you want it to be. So even Jason going before the meeting, we've talked about it before, it's not just about a meeting, it's the work you do before a meeting, it's during the
Yeah.
meeting, it's after the meeting, right? So there's the quantitative analysis that you would do in terms of knowing the situation, knowing the customer, knowing the company, the person you're meeting, and all their pains on those different levels. But then you have to think about you going in your qualitative elements that to ensure that you go in with the right body language, shoulders high, strong, comfortable, eye
Yeah.
contact, everything, strong handshakes, all these different things to ensure you're encouraging that person to be the same as well without being intimidating. It's also
Mm,
natural, Jason. It's not supposed to be robotic, and it's really important to understand, and it can be quite interesting when you start this process because it seems all mechanical in the beginning, but once you get used to it, it becomes autonomous over time. What do you think?
yeah, I think it's all to do with practice. Lots and lots of practice. It's recording yourself in front of a webcam, your phone. Use whatever you have around you. Record yourself. See how your body language looks when you're asking. Have your list of objections. Have list of questions. See how you portray yourself. Hear yourself. Hear your tone when you speak, and hear how you sound as well. And also, as you said, being prepared. When you prepare yourself, there's something that I do. It's not up for everyone else. I generally close my eyes for up to 5 minutes, and I just want to calm myself down before I go and mentally rehearse walking in there feeling good, feeling strong. I know there's other people suggest like you do venting, you do power modes, and whatever works for you, really. But as long as you come in there with a good posture, feeling quite confident, and even the handshake. No one likes that wet lettuce handshake,
Mm,
and it's like all over the place. No one likes that sweat lettuce handshake where you just like, hang on a minute, nice strong. Practice your handshake. Make sure that's good. Always look into the eyes. Um, that's so important, those eye contacts when you come in there, because they will telltale signs about you as an individual, how confident you are, maybe all the due diligence that you've done and your research, because you're confident going in there, because you know your stuff going in. And they should actually feel that. They
mm,
should actually go, they should actually, some people, you can get that air of confidence around them, and you can feel it from the other person. And you're walking into the meeting and go, they know their stuff. It's like when we do coaching and when we do training, they expect us to be experts at what we do. And that's what we need to portray. we are experts at what we do, and our body language shows that we're good, and they can feel that non-verbal communication straight away. There's an instant thing in our brain to go, oh, I like that person, or there's something in there about that person that I'm not quite okay with. I'm not quite sure what it is, but that's what I feel. So
Yeah.
it's all of that. It's really getting yourself across, feeling good, breathing, which is obviously very important. You don't want to be passing out, but yeah, breathing from the lower stomach, so you have a really good strong breath when you come into the meeting, virtually or no virtually, doesn't make any difference. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Jason. And I just want to build on something you brought to my attention there is about that first impressions, right? So again, Jason, you have to be on form. It's like acting, Jason. Like you have to go
Mm,
in, even when you're not comfortable with how you feel. You could be having an off day, but you still have to put on that act to ensure when you go into that room, you're giving the right non-verbal communication signals to that person, because whatever
mm,
you come in and do is going to have an impact on how they react to you. So it's very important to do it right. And I want to stress the importance of, there's a difference between confidence and overconfidence and being
yeah,
cocky.
yeah.
It is so important to understand the difference, because you want to be confident but open and being approachable, Jason. It's very important so people know that they can have a conversation. They're not going to be intimidated by you. And again, that's very open. You talk about the handshake, Jason. I always open, my hand is open, my palm is open to them.
Yeah.
My jacket, if I'm wearing one, is open. So when I open, my heart opens up to them as well. All these non-verbal, subtle communications, they all build up to that first impression that person's gonna perceive of you. And it's very hard to change that, Jason. It
Yeah, yeah.
truly is. You have to work really hard. So you have to, in prep, you have to work hard on making sure you're giving yourself the best opportunity to have the right first impression, because it's so hard to get over that.
It is trust and it's connection. There is something in body language that I read is when you show your palms up, it means that you're more trusting. When it
Mm,
goes down a little bit, you're less trusting and you're going inwards. But
mm,
let's have a look at when people are trying to protect themselves, maybe because you're challenging them, or
mm,
maybe they're being evasive. So when we have a look at that, I know I alluded a little bit that when we first started is when we're asking them questions and they're being evasive, what do we do?
mm. Well, share, please share, because do you know what, Jason? This is really important. Okay, when people are being evasive, and you again, you have a choice, Jason, to like follow their lead, which can then, Jason, make them be more evasive, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And fall into them. But you have to bring them. Your goal, again, going back to the pre work that you need to do, the prep work, Jason, before a meeting. Your goal is to not control the person, but control the agenda,
mm,
right? And I think that's really important. Never control people, control agendas, and bring people back towards an agenda. Because again, when you go into the meeting, it's very important to set out what we both want to get out of this meeting
yeah,
at
yeah.
the end. And then always rely on that. Don't control the person, control the agenda. And then, Jason, again, it's about, if you see these signals and these elusive behavior, um, then it's all about asking these qualifications, trying to get information as soon as possible before, because again, I truly believe in not wasting people's time. If they're not interested, that's fine. And even sometimes, Jason, I will call it. I will go, okay, let's call a spade a spade. I don't believe you're interested. I'd love to
Yeah,
know, where did I lose it? Were you
yeah,
interested at all? Did I not share something with you? And just be, I'm looking for honest feedback. And that's sometimes how I do it, Jason. And sometimes, oh, sorry about that. Because, Jason, some people play a game.
yeah. They
They,
do.
they, they can play a game to try and take control, and that's okay. But I want to make sure we get the best for both parties. My goal is to win-win, and maybe they don't know me to trust me enough to understand that, but I want to bring them towards that journey at the end of the day. But some people will play that negotiation game very, very well, and it's about bringing them back to get that goal to the win-win.
Yeah, it's about meeting in the middle. So once you do that, have you ever noticed two people in a restaurant, in a pub, bar, cafe? uh, and they've known each other for a while, and their body language is pretty similar, and way they speak, their culturalisms, and how they verse. It's the same in business meetings as well. You know, when you're going on well, and you're not thinking about things in your body language is aligned,
Mm.
and the way you're speaking to the other person is aligned, and they're speaking at the same tone, and it's all quite similar. But once you get a slight mismatch and it goes off, there could be a challenge there. So again, exactly what you've just alluded to is going, oh, is there something that I've maybe stepped out line? Is everything clear to you now? Um, because their body language might just go off in another direction, or maybe you ask them a question and all of a sudden you notice something that's going, hang on a minute, what happened there? So maybe you just need to ask, go, well, what happened there to maybe change your mind, or what happened there to what are your thoughts on this? If you see a slight difference, but it is. I know you've got to look at everything. You've got to also think about what you're going to say, but you've also got to be quite empathetic with your communication. Is really to sit in their shoes. There's lots and lots of things to think about, but it's those telltale signs that could win or lose or get the hell out of there, because nothing's going to happen. And we've all seen it. And afterwards, you go, hang on a minute, what actually happened? As you review and you give yourself some feedback. But it could have just been those telltale signs that you go, well, hang on a minute, the uh, the skin tone could have just slightly changed. And you go, hang on a minute, am I not have I annoyed them, or is there something else?
Yeah. And Jason, like it's so, and it takes practice. This stuff we're talking about is like next level stuff, because it takes practice to learn all this. Because
Does
like
does
in the beginning you're not understanding the cues, and then you're wondering if it's good or bad or indifferent or doesn't matter. But over time, again, as I said, the more you practice, the more autonomous it becomes. And it's a very powerful tool, and it's powerful, and I totally agree, Jason. These are things we naturally do in natural,
mm,
when you're in a having a bit of food with a friend over a glass of wine. The body language, everything, it's all in frequency, it's all in sync.
yeah
And that's the same thing. Everything we always talk about, that everything you do, your first goal in a meeting is to build a relationship, right?
yeah
And and I know you can use these tools for good and bad. You can let someone lead in the beginning, and then over time you'll mirror them, and then all of a sudden you'll start leading to see, are they following you? Then they go, okay, I'll have this person by the whatever, the palm of my hands, right? In the palm of my hands.
yeah
And but that's not really the way to do it, Jason. That's unnatural, and that's manipulation. The goal is always for me to win-win. And if
exactly.
you really get on with this person, if there is a good fit for what you can supply and solve their needs and requirements, and then the communication is good, you'll know coming out of a meeting, that meeting went really well. We know there's an opportunity to move
Mm,
forward, but still a process ahead. You can't take any step for granted, Jason. You have to be, as I said, there's the pre, there's the during, there's the post, there's the follow up, and then there's the collecting the yeses in terms of, did I understand your requirements? Can you please confirm? And all of that. So there's so many levels. And that's why I say, Jason, I always believe sales is the hardest part of business. It's the
it
hardest
is.
area of business, when people think it's so easy. And yes, some people are naturally amazing at it because they're really good at building relationships. It's not
Yeah.
about close, close, close. It's about building relationships for the long term, not for the short term. And even if you don't get the sale, Jason, or they're not interested in your service, if you can get to that position very well, still work on the relationship, because you
Yep.
never know when they could be an advocate of what you do. They may not have a need, but they may know someone who does, and they'll open up their network to you so you can help them. And I've seen this happen to many of my customers. It happens to me,
Yep.
and that's fine. So never just walk away when it doesn't suit you, Jason, or you know you're not going to get anything out of it. And you saw that in the body language, and then you just never talk to them again.
Yeah.
Always about the relationship.
I think it's creating that ripple effect. So the
Yeah.
ripple effect is you've engaged with the customer, even if you don't sell to them. Um, you part on really good company. Maybe you add value to them. Maybe you give them something. Maybe you do something. because you never know, 6 months down the line, they would just ring you up, or they could come back to you. And it's happened to me loads of times that all of a sudden, out of the blue, they ring me up and go, well, hang on, what about this? And you go, oh, thank you for thinking of me, because we left on really good terms and they thought about me. And it is, again, keeping yourself open to ideas and also building that long-term effective relationship that lasts. And that, I think that's all what it's about, plus everything that we do with our body language. What I was going to suggest before we've hit our witching hour is, when you do meet, if you meet a customer face to face, try and meet them outside of either office scenario, where it's on an equal term, like a cafe or a coffee shop, or where everyone feels a little bit more relaxed, less guarded. Because once you're in their place, they got the power, really. So you're going in there, you're working with them, or they come into your organization. But maybe meet them where you're both relaxed and both calm. I was going to say, running lots of exhibitions before in the past and running stands, all the business is done outside of the show, and it's pretty much done in the bars and the pubs and the cafes outside, where everyone is a little bit more relaxed. And then you can build rapport and trust, and based around a relaxed atmosphere.
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic. So, Jason, your final point was do business in the pub. Was that correct?
Coming from England, yeah, that's where a lot of the business is done, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, I think there's similar cultures where people just want to get on with people. People want to have fun. People want to enjoy each other's company outside of that formal business relationship scenarios and scenes. So I absolutely agree. I've done the same many times over, and I've had the hangovers to prove it, right? So on that
Absolutely.
final note, Jason, right, as always, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And for everyone, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer them. And we look forward to seeing you again at the Soft and System Side to Sales. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.